So I just got out of my session with Laura and I scored really high on the suicidal thoughts thing because I get like this poll the day before where I answer a bunch of questions of like how I'm doing emotionally and stuff like that and she was concerned about it. It was all thought without really an intent for action. But, we talked about it and she didn't make me feel ashamed or yell at me or get mad at me or anything because my trauma brain was trying to tell me that she was going to get mad at me for having such bad scores. And no, and I told her that and she's like, "No, why do you think I'd be mad at you?" And I was like, "Well, my whole life has been people getting mad at me for having feelings and intense emotions." And so I told her that I feel like my trauma part, which is -1 Godzilla, has just been rampaging nonstop for the past week since my dad came home. And if you've seen Godzilla -1, you know what the atomic breath looks like. But if you haven't, it's basically like Hiroshima happening all over again. And he's doing it over and over. And all my other parts, that are small enough to fit are down in like a foxhole. And then my angry part, which is MonsterVerse Godzilla, he's kind of standing in front of the foxhole, kind of guarding it, and he'll push my trauma part away. If he gets too close, he'll just kind of shove him away and make him go the other direction. So he's protecting us and protecting me, but not fighting, even though he really wants to. But I'm just like, no, just stay, guard us, protect us. You're the protector of me and my parts, and you protect from internal threats. And right now, trauma is causing a threat. So we're just kind of all hunkered down in here. And like parts work, it's not DID. It's different facets of me that have faces and designations, like angry, trauma, depression, my hypervigilance, my bubbly butterfly, that's the happy part, my critic, my curiosity, my insight, and, stuff like that. So, and so they're just waiting for trauma to tire out. And depression is a black hole, so it's just kind of following trauma around, affecting everything. And it's just kind of a disaster inside of my head. But Laura reassured me that, the fact that I recognize that when people say things to me that upset me, it's because I'm just not ready to receive that. And that when I say things that upset other people, it's because they're not ready to receive what I have to say. Basically, nobody's in a condition to be receptive. Me and my mom, and by tangent, my sister too. Nobody's in a condition to be receptive to any kind of input or someone else's emotions because we're all just highly stressed out, highly traumatized, highly exhausted by everything that's happened. And so it's just that's why we keep clashing and fighting, is because nobody is ready to sit down and listen to anything. We're all just operating on stress and emotion, not logic. And that's okay. We just gotta wait for the stress to lower, and hopefully that'll be soon. But it'll pass. Laura reminded me that this will pass, and these feelings will pass, and this trauma will pass, and this experience will pass, and it's not going to be forever. And I needed to hear that, and I just needed her to hear what I've been going through, which she did. She didn't interrupt me. She just let me talk and just sympathized with me, which is what I really needed. She'd be like, "Oh my God, that's terrible." Instead of saying, "Well, suck it up, because that's life." She'd be like, "Oh gosh, that's horrible. I'm so sorry." Those kind of things. Because she is a third party that's not in the middle of all of this. So she has the emotional capacity to receive the things I have to say. But nobody here is right now. And like, I took in what she said and I'm going to be processing it, but she says that as far as coping, I'm doing pretty good because I'm avoiding harming myself, which is the biggest goal, which I do. Like when I have a really intense suicidal thought, I'll write in my journal about it. I'll write that I'm raging. I might post something on Blue Sky or Facebook or something just screaming about how pissed off and I am and how I hate everything and oh my god, I should die for this because I'm so ridiculous and excuse me. But then I'll go do something, even if it's just put my head back and sleep. Or I'll rearrange my nail polish bottles because I've got over 50 of those. They're over on the table. Sometimes when I'm making a video facing the opposite wall, you might see it behind me, but I might do something like watch a movie or read something or just something that's different from what I'm doing that's making me think too hard about the things that I'm thinking. So, I told Laura that, and she's like, good, you're doing the tools I gave you, so, you're doing the best you can, and everybody's doing the best they can, but when people are traumatized and highly emotive, they're not going to be receptive, and anything you say is just going to trigger them to get angry. And, that's not because you're you, it's because of the situation and the trauma they're undergoing. And, she's right, because... And she pointed out that she knows that I have been blamed for other people being angry for so long that I've internalized the idea that it's my fault if someone gets angry. But that's not the case. Sometimes people are angry because of what's going on in their life. And it may not have anything to do with me at all. But for the past several days, I have been kind of a dickhead. So, like, I know some of it's my fault, but not all of it. But I'm going through a lot. And he is still going up here. And it's hard, but it will pass. I just have to take it moment by moment, day by day. And Laura has me for another appointment on the 30th. But if a slot opens, she'll call me and see if I can come on last minute so she can talk to me again because she wants to make sure I'm okay. So, there's that. So if I get a call from her, I'll be able to hop on Zoom and maybe we'll talk again. But it just felt good to unload all these things on her and just have an actual sympathetic response from like a face-to-face conversation, like in text. That's nice, and because Donnie sure has been and other people have been. But to just see someone's face change and recognize how horrific the situation here is really helps. It's kind of a misnomer that autistic people don't care about social interaction. We do. We just have different needs. But I will eventually be okay, I think. I think once we get help in here, once we get the Cal Optimus sorted and get helpers back in here, things will get calmer. And once we establish routines again, because when you're autistic and you screw up a routine, that can be traumatic to an autistic person. So, have to work through all this. But I'm still here. And I'm pretty close to feeling like I'm ready to pick up and fight again. But right now, I just need to rest and let him blow all the anger out. And blow all his rage and fear and trauma out. And I just try to tell him I'm here and I love you. Rage it out, but when you're done, I still love you. So I just keep telling this part that. That's why I got this figurine. I love Godzilla -1's design, but he represents my trauma part. And, I have him here. So that when I get really scared, I can hold him. And it's like I can soothe him. Or try to, at least. So, yeah. This too shall pass.